The tow truck's engine rumbled to a stop right in front of her perfect colonial home. The entire neighborhood watched from behind curtains as the crane lifted a bright blue porta-potty high into the air. Chains rattled. Hydraulics hissed. Then, thud. It landed right in the middle of her rose garden, the one she called her sanctuary. Marla Denton, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, burst through her front door like she'd seen a ghost. Her scream sliced through the calm morning air. And as that flimsy plastic door swung open in the breeze, I couldn't help but smile. That was the sound of poetic justice finally arriving. But to understand how we got to this moment, you need to hear what she did first. My name's David Holt. 3 months before that glorious morning, I'd bought a small corner lot in Maple Hill Estates, one of those quiet suburban neighborhoods where every blade of grass is the same length and every mailbox is the same shade of beige. I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I just retired after 30 years in construction and wanted to build a small ranch-style home for my golden years. I pulled my permits, hired an architect, and even introduced myself at the HOA meeting. Everyone seemed polite, except for one person. Marla Denton. She lived 3 houses down in the biggest home on the street, white pillars, trimmed hedges, a flag that never touched the ground. She'd been HOA president for 6 years, which, in Maple Hill, made her royalty. And like any monarch, she ruled with an iron clipboard. They said she once fined a neighbor for hanging a Christmas wreath 2 days early. Another for having unapproved garden gnomes. That should have been my first warning. Every weekend, I'd drive out to clear my lot, hauling old tires, trimming weeds, cutting back overgrowth. It was peaceful work, until I heard the sharp click-click-click of high heels behind me. "Mr. Holt," she said, flashing a tight smile that looked painful to maintain. "Your lot is disrupting the visual harmony of our community." I stared at her, genuinely confused. "I'm just cleaning it up. It's been an eyesore for years." Her head tilted slightly, that same icy smile still frozen in place. "Change itself," she said, "can be disruptive." Then she turned on her heel and walked away, heels clicking like a metronome of misery. That's when I knew, this wasn't about rules. This was about control. A week later, I got my first official HOA letter, a citation for debris visible from the street. The debris in question: the pile of branches I was loading when she approached me. I paid the $75 fine, thinking it'd smooth things over. Big mistake. Within a month, the citations piled up like spam mail. My truck was parked 2 inches over the property line. The safety cones I used weren't the approved orange. I failed to submit Form 47B before removing a dead tree stump. Each fine came with her signature and that smug phrase, "Rules exist for a reason." I started calling her the clipboard queen. Then one Tuesday morning, I pulled up to the lot and froze. There, standing proud in the center of my land, was a bright blue porta-potty. Not off to the side. Not near the street. Dead center. It looked ridiculous, like a plastic monument to her pettiness. I called the number printed on the side. The rental company told me it had been ordered by Marla Denton, on behalf of the Maple Hill Estates HOA. When I explained there was no construction yet, the guy on the phone sighed. "Sorry, sir. 6-month prepaid lease. Can't move it without authorization." 6 months. That evening, I went to her house. She opened the door wearing pearls and that same smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Oh, David," she cooed, "some residents complained about the lack of sanitation on your site. I took the liberty of arranging facilities for you." "You're welcome." I blinked. "There's no construction yet." She shrugged. Ordinance 12.6, facilities must be installed before work begins. It's for community health. Then she added, almost sweetly, "If you want it moved, submit Form 81C. The board meets in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That blue box wasn't going anywhere. For 3 weeks, that porta-potty mocked me. Every time I drove past, I could practically hear it laughing. But I'm a patient man. And I document everything. When I requested a copy of the rental paperwork, I noticed something strange. The lease wasn't in the HOA's name. It was in hers. She'd signed it personally, as authorized representative, and used her own credit card for the deposit. That was my moment of clarity. According to the rental company, whoever signed the lease had full authority over its placement and relocation. Meaning, legally, Marla Denton had just given me the power to move it. All I needed was her verified signature, and thanks to those countless citations, I had a whole stack of them. That night, I called my cousin Mike. He runs a towing company. When I told him the plan, he just laughed. Let's move some equipment. We set the plan for Thursday. 3 a.m. The night air was still when Mike's flatbed rolled up to my lot. We worked in silence, no headlights, no noise beyond the hum of hydraulics. Chains clinked. Steel tightened. The porta-potty lifted off the ground like a blue ghost, swinging under the moonlight. 20 minutes later, we turned onto Maple Hill Drive. Marla's house sat at the corner, glowing like a palace in the dark. Her lawn looked airbrushed, perfect diagonal stripes, roses arranged by color. She'd won Yard of the Month, so often they'd renamed the award after her. Mike positioned the flatbed with surgeon-like precision. We lowered the unit right beside her rose garden, exactly 18 inches from the first bush. Not blocking the sidewalk, not touching the street. Perfectly legal. Perfectly poetic. As a final touch, I mounted a small solar light on top. By sunrise, it would glow like a neon crown. We took photos from every angle, timestamps, location data, proof it was on her property. Then we left. At 6:45 a.m., I parked across the street with a thermos of coffee. I didn't want to miss the show. At 7 o'clock sharp, Marla stepped out, pressed suit, heels, coffee in hand. She made it halfway to her car before she saw it. She froze. Then came the scream. The kind that starts low and builds until you can feel it in your bones. She whipped out her phone and started making calls, pacing, waving, shouting. Rental company. HOA board. Maybe the police. But this time, karma had receipts. When the rental company checked the lease, they confirmed she had full authority. And when she denied approving the move, they pointed out her verified signature. By 8 a.m., cars were slowing to stare. Curtains fluttered. Neighbors stepped onto their porches. Even Mrs. Langley, who never leaves her house before noon, was out with her phone. Marla was pacing her lawn, red-faced, arguing with a police officer who finally said, "Ma'am, it's on your property. It's your lease. This isn't a crime, it's a civil matter." I took a slow sip of coffee. Justice, hot and fresh. That night, the HOA called an emergency meeting. The clubhouse was packed, standing room only. Marla sat at the head of the table, eyes blazing. She called the incident a malicious act of vandalism and demanded immediate disciplinary action. But then the treasurer, Margaret Chen, asked to see the paperwork. When the documents circulated, the room shifted. Whispers spread like sparks. Why had Marla used her personal credit card for an HOA expense? Why hadn't the board approved it? Where did the money come from? Marla tried to defend herself, but her voice cracked. Then Margaret opened her laptop, scrolling through the HOA's transaction records. After a long pause, she looked up. "There's no record of this payment. Or any withdrawal from community funds." The room exploded in murmurs. Then old Mr. Petrov, one of the founding residents, stood up and said loudly, "I've been waiting 20 years for someone to stand up to this dictator." Laughter rippled through the crowd. The tension broke. Residents began listing every petty thing she'd ever done: unfair fines, rude comments, intimidation. By the end of the meeting, 3 votes passed unanimously. No action against me. A full financial audit. A special election to decide whether Marla should remain president. For the first time since I'd met her, Marla looked powerless. The blue porta-potty stayed on her lawn for 17 days. 17 long, humiliating days. Every morning, she'd come out and glare at it like she could will it to vanish. Every afternoon, someone new would stop to take a picture. She called every towing company in town, none would touch it without the rental company's permission. She even tried to declare it a public health hazard. Didn't work. One evening, she tried to push it herself. Neighbors filmed it from their windows. That video spread through the community chat faster than wildfire. By day 10, even her allies stopped defending her. By day 15, campaign signs started appearing on lawns, something she banned years ago. When the election day came, it wasn't even close. Out of 147 votes, only 12 wanted to keep her. The rest voted for change, and for transparency. Then the audit results dropped. Turns out, Marla had been reallocating HOA funds for personal use, landscaping, furniture, and administrative retreats. Not illegal, but unethical enough to end her career at the local bank. The day she finally paid the $847 relocation fee, the same tow truck arrived. She stood on her porch, arms crossed, trying to look composed. When the truck pulled away, she looked across the street and saw me watching. Our eyes met. I lifted my coffee cup in a silent toast. She turned, went inside, and shut the door. In the end, it wasn't about the porta-potty. It was about balance. About showing that power without humility eventually collapses under its own weight. She used the rules to control everyone. But in the end, those same rules became her undoing. Sometimes, the only thing stronger than authority is irony.